Buying a camera today is extremely difficult for a number of reasons. First, the reality is that no perfect camera exists. Where a particular model has strengths in one area, it has a weakness in another area, sometimes frustratingly so. And second, the technical comparisons and reviews have gone overboard. Amidst this rush to push out technical review videos, we seem to have lost the initial purpose of why we want to get a camera, which is to create new content. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not looking to put a camera on my shelf that happens to be the technically best camera. I want to use it. I want to be inspired. I want to go out and create content, whether that's videos like this one or photographs of my family. It's all about creation. I really don't care about rolling shutter. I'd rather have some rolling shutter in my actual footage than the thought that I may have rolling shutter if I ever actually used the camera. Almost every review video now copies every other video, including taking a photo of a brick wall to test corner sharpness of the lens. I can't imagine what the legends such as Cartier-Bresson or Ansel Adams must think of us aspiring photographers and videographers. Go back and take a look at their work and the equipment that they had, and you'll see how their art only highlights our over-the-top obsession with technical specs which are often meaningless to us. So, as I was deciding to get a camera, I fell into the same trap of spending more time watching review videos than I did actually creating content. Yeah, it's much easier to just sit and watch other people's videos, but also you get analysis paralysis. Heaven forbid someone notices some mild chromatic aberration in the corner of one of my photos. And truth be told, I started using review videos as a crutch, an excuse to not be creating my own content. It's far easier to learn about the technical aspects of the camera than it is to start the creative process. Whether I wanted to admit it to myself or not, the reality was that I was afraid to create, afraid of putting myself on camera, afraid that my footage wouldn't look as good, afraid that it proves to me I spent money on the wrong gear, afraid that it meant I need more gear, and honestly, I'm fairly sure I was even afraid of the work that I'd need to put in. But I realized I'm going to need to lean into that apprehension and overcome this artificial excuse, the arbitrary constraints and imaginary obstacles that I put in place. I just have to start creating. Of course, different cameras will have different strengths and applicability depending on your use case. You have to decide what you want to do with your camera. Any of the current crop of cameras on the market will likely be more camera than most of us will ever need. Now, depending on your use case, my use case is primarily YouTube videos and capturing moments with my family. And I get that if you're a professional or a wedding photographer, you have requirements that are way beyond mine. But for me, I eventually tired of watching reviews and I ended up renting both the Panasonic GH5 and the Fuji X-T3, knowing that I need to make a decision, select one, and start producing content. Now, never mind for purposes of reviewing these for a YouTube video like this, just for evaluating these two cameras for myself, it wasn't easy. For a start, it's the person behind the camera that's the artist. The camera is not the artist, so I had to work with my own skill and knowledge limitations, which are many. I'm not an artist, I'm not a photographer or a videographer. And second, the camera as a tool is often only as good as your technical expertise in using that tool, and mastery of a specific camera can take time. Most modern cameras have hundreds of settings buried deep in different layers of menus, so where I experienced some issue with one of these two cameras, it may well have been user error, and that makes selecting a camera all the more difficult. Now, both the GH5 and the Fuji X-T3 are phenomenal cameras. They would both technically be more than enough camera for my needs. They each had pros and cons. Yes, I wish the GH5 had better autofocus. I wish the X-T3 had a flippy screen. I wish the GH5 had better low light capabilities. And I wish the X-T3 had IBIS. After playing with both cameras for a week, I went through a phase of thinking that perhaps I need to look at some additional cameras, but I've realized there is no end in looking at cameras and equipment, and once again, no perfect camera exists. And then I noticed something. Amidst this continued confusion of which camera, every time I'd walk into the room and I see both the GH5 and the X-T3 standing next to each other, I was inevitably drawn to one of them. And I don't mean by the way they look. I mean by some undefinable inspiration, a sense of wanting to pick it up and go and create, without regard to pixels, color science, chromatic aberration, rolling shutter, none of it. Just to go and create. And that, after all, is the purpose of a camera. It doesn't mean one camera was better than the other one. It means one camera is working better for me than the other one. And this is why I ended up selecting the Fuji X-T3. It accomplishes the goal of letting me want to go and create content. Sure, I hate the fact that it has no IBIS and that I need an external monitor thanks to the lack of flippy screen, and maybe the X-T4 will fix that, and I could wait for that model, but no, I can't wait any longer. I need to start creating, and I love what the X-T3 does to quench this artistic thirst, and it was time for me to start my journey in actually using one of these cameras. I'm filming this video on it now, and I have so much more to learn about using it, but I want to learn more about using it. I enjoy the menu layout, but most of all, I love the physical controls. It's a pleasure adjusting ISO and shutter speed and aperture. It, to me, is the perfect combination of a high-tech electronic device leveraging old-school mechanical dials. And this layout mirrors your standard exposure triangle, and making adjustments feels so intuitive, in addition to just really being quick and easy. Now, I had some great footage out of the GH5. Arguably, some of my test video was even better than I got from my X-T3, though I really did struggle with autofocus on the GH5, even with the 2.6 firmware. At times, I thought it would purposely focus on anything but my face. I've no doubt I could have figured it out, but that was my biggest criticism of the GH5. Arguably, I could get around the lack of a flippy screen or IBIS on the X-T3 with workarounds. I can put an external monitor on it. I can use a gimbal if I wanted to. But I didn't really see any workaround for the autofocus. Now, I know thousands of YouTubers are using the GH5 successfully, so take my criticism with a grain of salt. Regardless, when I step away from the bits and the bytes and the specs of both of these cameras, I just couldn't deny that the Fuji had a bigger draw to me. This review may leave you unsatisfied. Trust me, I could never do a technical comparison like Gerald Undone. I don't have the creativity or charisma that a Peter McKinnon or a Matty Apoya have. They'll always do a better review than what I can do. But what I can hopefully impart to you is to get you to take the plunge to start creating. You won't find a perfect camera. If you don't believe me, go check out the Camera Conspiracies channel. Often, you're not even going to know what a perfect camera is for you until you've been producing content for a while. There is no substitute for actually using your camera. Cartier-Bresson said that, quote, your first 10,000 photographs are your worst. I promise you, when you're on your proverbial deathbed reminiscing about your life and reliving memories through your photos and your videos, you won't be worried about your corner sharpness or your rolling shutter. Even an out-of-focus photo is better than none at all. Take this photo that I didn't focus properly. In 20 years, I'll have tears in my eyes reminiscing about this photo, remembering not only my daughter, but the day and the moment that I took it. It's a moment that I've managed to capture forever, blur and all. Aaron Siskin said that, quote, photography is a way of feeling, of touching, of loving. What you have caught on film is captured forever. It remembers little things long after you have forgotten everything. My daughter is growing by the day. Life's moments are happening around us every minute, every second. Go and capture it. Life is short, but art lives forever. Find whichever camera will be the one that inspires you. I found the camera for me, and as one who wants to capture moments forever, that is priceless.